Welcome back to Fireside Giants, a featured podcast by Empire Sports Media. I'm your host, Alexander Wilson, and my co-host, Anthony Rivardo, is with power and back with us today. If you listened to yesterday's episode, I was solo dolo and really just ran through 30 minutes of me talking. I almost passed out. It was really difficult without Anthony. It's different doing it by yourself, I found. But if you haven't followed us on Twitter already, Alex Wilson ESM, Anthony_Rivardo, make sure to subscribe on YouTube and leave us a nice review on iTunes. All of your support is greatly appreciated. A lot of you have hit me up on Twitter to let me know that you're anticipating the articles and the YouTube videos coming out and the podcast. So it's been really cool to see all of this attention and positive feedback, and we really, really appreciate everything that you guys have done for us and giving us this platform to utilize. And we have a lot to talk about. Day 2 of pads, a lot went down. But before we dive into that, Anthony, how are you doing today?
I'm doing much better now that I'm not sitting in my apartment during a hurricane. We actually had legitimate tornado warnings yesterday. We were told, don't go near any windows, whatever. There's going to be flooding in the downstairs apartments. So it was a little scary for a little bit. And actually, out in our living room, we looked out the window, and we saw wind coming from both directions and starting to, twist. So we were a little scared that, a tornado was going to form, right in that parking lot. Thankfully, it didn't. It passed after a little while, but a little scary for a couple minutes, but we're good now. Ready to talk some Giants.
Yeah, actually, I don't think I've ever actually seen a tornado in person. I've heard of them nearby. New York doesn't really get tornadoes, luckily, but I know Florida, you guys get them sometimes, and definitely in the West, the Midwest, they get them a lot. The dry air, I guess. I don't know much about it, but regardless, weather here is not that great either. Giants practicing today about 1:30, and yesterday was a late practice, about 5 to 7. Interesting time frame, but it seemed like Joe Judge wanted to get his guys some extra rest because they were getting physical yesterday. Yeah, no, I do like that as well, but they were getting physical yesterday. It was intense, and there's some injuries we have to update you on and a lot more. But just to get things started, Cody Core, out for the season, torn Achilles. Non-contact injury. It's really sad to hear because he's one of our primary special teams guys as a gunner. I posted a little clip on Twitter just to kind of give people an idea of what he's capable of, and the guy gets down there to the ball carrier very quickly. He's always one of the first guys there. And the Giants had Antonio Hamilton, who also is a fantastic gunner, but he's gone now. So it's really going to be interesting to see how they supplement Cody Core, and I see them kind of utilizing that next man approach and seeing who adapts to that space, because they have a lot of guys that could fill that role that maybe wouldn't have gotten a roster spot before. Austin Mack, Prince Smith, Drayvon Askew-Henry. There's a ton of guys. CJ Board, who just was signed with the Giants as a wide receiver. So what do you see happening there? And I think Joe Judge being a special teams coordinator, this is where he's going to shine, and he's going to be able to find pieces to supplement.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a really big loss. It's very underrated, the value that a good gunner has for a football team, because Cody Core really he was a playmaker for the Giants last year for the special teams unit. He got down there very fast, was a really great gunner. So it's going to be a big loss, but you mentioned it, Joe Judge, former special teams coordinator. I feel like he'll figure it out. He'll find another special team or another gunner to get out there, and Derek Dillon, even whoever gets that wide receiver 4 spot. We've talked about all those guys. There's 4 of them who are competing. I think if it would have been just one who was going to make the roster, I think now you can maybe say 2 of them will make the roster. One of them will be focused on playing special teams, though. So, and that was a good point that you mentioned when we had that discussion a couple episodes ago. You said special teams is a key aspect in who gets that wide receiver 4 position, and I think that's even more true now that Cody Core is out for the year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think Corey Coleman still has that wide receiver 4 spot. However, you do need guys like Cody Core on the roster, because having a good special teams unit, and that was really the only positive thing the Giants showed last year, was their special teams in terms of overall, okay, this unit is good. That's why they retained the special teams coordinator and Thomas McGoffney, right? I'm pretty sure.
Thomas McGahee. But I also, real quick, I've got a question. Do you know if Nate Ebner is a gunner? Because I know he's a special teamer, but I don't know if he's actually a gunner.
I think he played a similar role to Michael Thomas, so I don't think he was a gunner.
Okay.
But he's
good. I know he's got really good stats and was really good for the Patriots for a really long time. So I feel like he might be a gunner, and if that's the case, then he should be the next man up.
even if he's not a gunner, he's one of the best special teams players in the NFL. That's why the Giants went out and made sure to sign him. I honestly think they could have kept Michael Thomas too and just had two really good special teams guys and just leaders, because Michael Thomas was one of those guys that I always felt confident with him on the field, and he actually supplemented the safety position okay when he was called upon. He was a decent depth player. He was loved in the locker room. I was actually surprised to see them let him walk like that. But Nate Ebner is a fantastic special teams guy. I mean, when you're coming from the Patriots and you've been there for that long and they valued you for that long, you know that player is probably pretty good. Yeah. So I'm pretty confident in him. But it's going to be interesting to see, how do they supplement the loss of Cody Core. Gunners aren't going to be the most expensive players on the market. Right. They're really a secondary position. Cody Core, the most receiving yards he's ever had was 200 yards in 2016 with the Bengals. Mm-hmm. And he has one touchdown to his name over 4 years. So we know his primary allocation is towards special teams. Only 62% of snaps on special teams. That was the highest he's ever had, was last year. And don't ask me how I know all these numbers, but I just remembered them from an article I wrote this morning. So he's a good special teams guy, not really a guy you want to rely on as a receiver, which is why I think Corey Coleman and that wide receiver 4 spot and gunner role are completely different. So it should be interesting to see who they kind of push into that spot. I actually really like Austin Mack, and that kind of leads me to where I want to go with Corey Valentine, who was injured yesterday. So really cool drill, physical, intense, head-on collisions.
I'm a fan of the drill.
Yeah, me too. So Joe Judge has been saying he's done this for 10 years. Everyone's freaking out about this, in addition to the consequential laps that he's been making players
Don't get me started on it.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that too after we get through Valentine, just for a short while to just talk about how ridiculous that is. But nonetheless, when we're talking about this drill, we're talking about a defender on the goal line and an offensive player with the ball in his hands 5 yards out, within like a 3-yard width of a space, right? So they're running head on toward each other, and they have to try and push each other into the end zone or stop at the goal line. That's the idea of this. Austin Mack versus Corey Valentine. Austin Mack lowers his shoulder into Valentine, who is actually a good tackler. He only missed 1 tackle out of 27 attempts last year, and Valentine got shook, like roasted. Like he got buried in the ground. Austin Mack scores, but Valentine couldn't get up. Originally, they thought it was a neck injury. It ended up being a shoulder injury. Maybe he dislocated it or something. They popped it back in. He was fine. He ends up, everyone thought the guy was dead. And then suddenly, a few minutes later, he's back in practice and finishes fine. And he's been fine ever since. So, a really big scare there.
Yeah, big scare. Thankfully, he's okay. But here's my thing with that drill and why I'm such a big fan of it. Because a lot of people are criticizing it, saying it's a little too rough and it's a little too risky to be doing in training camp or whatever. But people who say that also will praise the Seattle Seahawks and the Legion of Boom. The Seattle Seahawks have been running a drill just like that and drills like that for years, and here's why you run that drill. Corey Valentine probably had bad tackling form on that play, and it led him to getting injured. He will not tackle with bad form anymore. He's now learned his lesson. That's the whole point of that drill, is to tackle. When you tackle with proper form, you A, protect your body, and B, tackle more efficiently. So that drill is going to teach the Giants players to be more efficient tacklers and to be safer tacklers, protect their bodies. That's the whole point of the drill, and it's kind of, Corey Valentine's injury is kind of a way... It's a tough way to learn that lesson, but now I think the Giants players have definitely learned that lesson, that we really need to be confident in the way that we're tackling and make sure we're not leading with our heads or hurting ourselves, because and this is another thing with Cam Brown, who also didn't do so well in that drill and had to run laps. Cam Brown has got really bad tackling form. I think we mentioned that in the last podcast episode, and I'm going to be discussing that extensively on the next film breakdown. He likes to just lunge head forward, just like spear people with the crown of his head. That's a good way to paralyze yourself. That's scary.
Yes.
That's a bad thing to do. So this drill and other hitting drills like this in full pads, it's music to my ears, because it's going to teach these players not to spearhead people and injure themselves. Player safety is the number one priority, and I think this is a drill that teaches how to be safe as a football player, and that's why I'm happy about it and confused as to why there are people who are upset about it.
I agree completely, and that's kind of the issue with the Giants the past few years. They've been so poor in the tackling department, missed tackles all over the place. double-digit missed tackle percentages, which is really, really problematic, something that the Giants needed to fix. And then you look at a team like New England Patriots and how refined they are when it comes to tackling, their fundamentals. They have players that nobody knows playing like at very high levels, right? And how else do you get a guy to do that unless he's just athletically gifted or he is perfect fundamentally and he does his job to perfection? Think about this. The NFL and every single player, they have specific jobs to do. Everything, if it's done well, should be efficient, right? It should be productive and efficient. People shouldn't be missing tackles if they have the right form. They shouldn't be getting injured if they do this or do that. A lot of Evan Ingram's injuries probably happen from lack of fundamentals and just doing things that like naturally your body shouldn't do. Ironing out those things. A lot of injuries can be avoided because of that, and that's kind of why they've taken out kick returns and like increasing probability of injury stuff. That's kind of where the league is going, and like obviously head first collision stuff like that. Cam Brown is one of those guys who actually dives head first into people. He spears people,
it's scary.
That is exactly. It's scary. That's a season-ending, career-ending injury waiting to happen. Right. You don't want that. So with Joe Judge in this drill, and it's the craziest thing to me. And a lot of people have been saying this. How is it possible that the entire game of football is designed around tackling, but they don't practice tackling in practice?
Exactly. And that was a thing, because that's what everybody always said, was you can't hurt each other in practice or whatever. And then Pete Carroll, Seattle Seahawks head coach, he almost revolutionized the way that team coaches and the way that teams across the league coach. It wasn't really until Pete Carroll started having these hard-hitting practice drills that teams started to catch on and realize like we should be doing that too. It produces safer tackles and more efficient tackles. Pete Carroll is like the guy who revolutionized this, and it's awesome. And another thing is like people are complaining because they don't want the players getting hit and beat down in practice. It's like, I think Joe Judge had a really good quote about this, and I can't remember what he said, but he basically was saying, you're going to get hit in games, so you need to know how to take the hits. You need to know how to get hit. So you got to get hit in practice at some point. And I'll try and find that quote, so I'll give you your chance to speak while I look for it.
I know he said one thing. He was like, the Pittsburgh Steelers aren't coming to hug us.
Right, yeah, that one too. And let me see if I can find this.
Yeah, because, Joe Judge, he is very, very detailed. And Golden Tate, even Saquon Barkley said on Monday, I thought I was detailed. I have to take my approach and my mentality to his style of coaching to another level. I have to be even more detailed now. Golden Tate's like, it's unbelievable how detailed Judge is. So when we're considering the type of coach that he wants to be and what he's instituting early on, a lot of these players are so young. It's really, really good that they're laying the foundation of what the Giants are going to be in the future now, right? And I really think that's why we have a lot of young faces on the team. They traded away some older guys, and this rebuild is really a rebuild. Like, I haven't felt like we've been in a rebuild for quite a while. It feels like we always were like kind of signing older guys and trying to supplement positions. You still had Eli Manning starting in the beginning of last year. Like, this is the first year where I fully like embrace the rebuild. It feels like they're setting the stage and they're laying the foundation of coaching. Look at our staff. Freddie Kitchens, Jason Garrett, 2 former head coaches, Burton Burns, coached 2 Heisman-winning guys, Jerry Shuplinski. Yep. He coached Jacoby Brissett, Jimmy Garoppolo, Tom Brady, Coach Chaos. There's so many really talented coaches. Brett Bielema, fantastic linebackers coach. He curses the crap out of these guys.
Yeah.
He was like harassing Cam Brown on his laps the other day.
Yeah.
But what I like about Judge is that he's not acting like a friend. He cares about these players. Like, he deeply does, because I saw one thing when Valentine went down, he looked like he was concerned for Valentine. Like, he looked like he was like, oh crap, like, he might be injured.
Yeah.
But the reality is that it's a job, and they're not there to be friends. They're there to learn from Coach Judge. They're there to learn from all the different coaches. So it's super important to me that they lay the foundation early. They increase the intensity, because when it comes game time, they're going to be prepared to play against better teams in more hostile situations. It should be better overall.
Exactly, and I finally found that quote by Joe Judge. He said, the quote is, "We can't teach the guys how to learn how to drive on I-95 by driving backwards." And he also said, we can't teach the guys how to learn how to drive on I-95 by riding on back roads. Mm-hmm. It's true. You gotta practice driving on 95 to drive on 95 and get better at it. So you gotta practice tackling and getting hit to get better at tackling and getting hit. So, and all the things you said with the detail orientation, and I mean, when Saquon is saying that, like, he thought he was the most detailed guy, and then he meets Joe Judge, like, I don't know. It's silly to me that there's people who are complaining about these things. He's doing everything that we've asked. You know, we wanted more detail, we wanted more discipline, and now we're getting it, and it seems like there's people upset about it. And that's why I'm getting frustrated with, like, fans and big media personalities like Shannon Sharp and other guys who are like, I mean, I've heard so many complaints. Yeah, I've heard so many complaints from these guys about the last two head coaches, about not being detailed enough, about not disciplining enough. And now we finally have a guy who does that stuff, and now people want to make that a talking point like it's a problem. None of it makes sense to me, honestly.
I know. I totally agree. And just the talking heads trying to stir crap in the New York media. What I really like so far is that Joe Judge doesn't give a shit. You know, he doesn't give a shit about the New York media. Pat Shurmur and Ben McAdoo were always slicking their hair back and doing this, doing that to please everybody. Joe Judge is like, I don't care. You know, this is my team. They hired me to overhaul this entire mentality, this organization. You know, just think about all of the players that walked over the coaching staff in the past few years. Landon Collins, OBJ, Janoris Jenkins, like, walked over these guys. They set the tempo.
Eric Flowers,
Bobby Hart. Like, so many. Eli Apple. Oh my God, his mom even was walking over coaches. She's never on the damn team. You know, so what we're seeing now with Judge is that he's not taking any shit. He's not letting players walk over him. He's setting the tone. He's bringing the intensity. He's cursing out players. He's not letting them have a chance to get comfortable, you know, because football isn't a comfortable sport. You're being hit. You're hitting. You're in high-pressure situations. You have tens of thousands of people yelling, screaming at you.
Yep.
This isn't supposed to be a friendly game where you're just going through the motions and practicing for fun. You know, you're there to win. If you want to win 6 championships, if you want to look back at your career and say, damn, I was at 6 Super Bowls. I was with Bill Belichick. I was with Joe Judge. I was with Nick Saban. You know, I was on some of the best teams. You can't be walking around through practice, acting like you're hot shit, and not doing the work necessary. You know, that's what the Giants have been doing the past few years. They haven't been doing the work necessary. And they're finally setting the stage. And it pisses me off, and I know you just said this too, but that fans are complaining about it, and that talking heads are complaining about it, when this is all we've wanted. All we've wanted is somebody to come in here and say, this is the time for us to change things, and we're doing it, and we're going to bring intensity, and we're going to do it our way and not the players' way. Because at the end of the day, they're making millions of dollars bringing me to this damn lap situation. People are complaining about professional players running a few laps for making mistakes. If you've ever been on a sports team and haven't run laps for making a mistake, dropping a ball, you know, slacking, not running up to the line of scrimmage, it's basic football, basic athletics. If you can't do it being paid millions of dollars, get the hell off a professional sports team. People are so soft. It's unbelievable. I'm only 24 and I can say that these people are soft. It's crazy.
Yeah, and the thing is, there's other teams around the league that run laps and like have like systems for, you know, correcting mistakes. Like there's other teams that do this, but the Giants are getting the attention because New York. That's why. But the thing is, it's the New York media who's reporting on all of this stuff, and everybody's listening to the things that they're saying, except for like the key aspects of what they're saying. They're hearing players are running laps. Wow, okay, that's terrible. They're hearing they're doing hitting drills. What? Joe Judge is a madman. But Art Stapleton, right? Here's a good example. He said, this is the tweet that he put out with an article the other day. He said, Joe Judge's blueprint to rebuild the Giants is all about the details, not about copying Bill Belichick. This isn't a power trip from a coach trying to emulate his mentors. And what matters most, his players understand the difference. That's the key. The players understand that he's not copying Bill Belichick. He's simply just being detail-oriented. And they get that. And I know Sterling Shepard came out and said that. He said, we're buying into the culture. It takes everybody buying in to build the culture. So they've all bought in. They're all happy to run the laps because they want to be more detail-oriented. The players get it. So why are people outside of this team making a fuss about it if the players are more than happy about this stuff? That's just the big media picking and choosing what to talk about and then ignoring everything. They like take this out of context, ignore the context, and then talk about it and then stir up this big drama. ridiculous.
It's
I've said
classic.
that a few times. It's classic. It's classic Max Kellerman and Sam Acho
Shannon
and
Sharp.
Shannon
Who watches
Sharp. It's
Undisputed
classic.
anymore anyway.
See, yeah, and here's my thing with all those shows. I don't watch them. I can't stand them because these are people who are paid to have an opinion different from the guy across from them. And it's not even their real opinions half the time. They're just told that they have to have a controversial opinion that opposes the guy in front of them. So they do. They don't really provide any insight. They just yell at each other, and like it can be entertaining to watch Stephen A. Smith scream blasphemy at the top of his lungs. But they're not
Howard.
Yeah, they're not insightful. They just have controversial opinions because they're told they have to. I don't even think like there's a good chance that Shannon Sharp actually doesn't even have an issue with the laps. He's just told that he has to, so he does.
Mm-hmm. When the paycheck comes in, I don't think they care.
Exactly.
No one's going to beat them up over saying, this isn't going to end well. Someone said that Shannon Sharp was mad because he's making coaches do it too. Like, whatever. It's like 2 laps.
I mean, I think that's a good thing, though, that coaches are doing it too, because it means that it's accountability for everybody. I'm sure if Joe Judge makes a mistake, he'll go run a lap, Everybody is accountable. That's the culture that they're building.
Yes.
And that's what I love about it.
Exactly. If it was just the players, it would have like an authoritarian kind of aspect to it. But if the coaches are doing it too, this means that they're together with this. There's no individual that's going to be leading this team. Saquon Barkley is a piece to the puzzle. He's not the focal point, right? He might be the guy that they're giving 30 carries to every game, but he is an integral piece to the team. And that's kind of the difference. It's just crazy to me that people are already concerned and complaining when, for example, Saquon Barkley, when they asked him, like, do you know, like, the running laps and stuff? And he's like, oh, well, I've never experienced that yet. And then you're like, well, okay, maybe this is a good thing because the 2 teams he's been on, or the 2 like different regiments he's been on since being in the NFL with the Giants. I guess it was just Pat Shurmur, really. They lost 2. They had 2 terrible seasons, right? 2 awful seasons. So why, in any way, would we take anything from those 2 seasons and apply them to 2020? Why? There's no reason to. So at this point, we're looking forward. We're seeing the differences that they're making. Now, it hasn't proven to be successful yet, so we don't know. And I think it's important to wait and see how things shape out. But I like just to see that there's change in general,
Me too. And another thing that people were complaining about is he took all the names off of the jerseys Joe Judge did. I don't understand why people are complaining about it. I think people are complaining about that because they misunderstood the purpose of it. And so I'll explain the purpose. People think it's like you got to earn your name on the back of the jersey and whatever. That's not at all what it is. It's about the coaches not looking and seeing a name on the back of a jersey. It's about the coaches looking at a person and seeing them as a person rather than just a name, and getting to know them better and learn about them and learn with them and grow together. That's the purpose, and that's the purpose that Joe Judge said that he wanted from day one. At his introductory press conference, we loved everything he said because he promised that there was going to be hard tackles and hard practices and all of that, and he said that it was going to be very detail-oriented, and he said that he wanted teachers. I remember that quote specifically. He said he wanted the coaches to be teachers and to grow and build relationships. So now we see him delivering on all of these promises, and now it's a problem. And again, I already went on the spiel about the big media, so I really don't understand it, but like he said he's bringing in teachers, and now they took the jerseys off so that these guys can be teachers and recognize each other as human beings rather than football players. And so I actually really like that he took the jerseys off or the names off of the jerseys, and I really like everything he's done. I think he's delivered on every promise. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to lead to wins, and it's not like all this stuff in the offseason definitely equates to success, but it does mean that he's delivering on these promises, and he can deliver on other promises in the future too, now that he's already set this standard.
Yeah, exactly. And really, who the hell cares about taking the names off of jerseys? The only reason that people want to see the names on jerseys is so they can identify them watching clips.
That's
right?
true.
That's the only reason.
It was so funny because they have extra jersey numbers. Like there's a guy who's wearing number 26 and he's not Saquon Barkley and he's playing with the Giants right now. And people are like, I commented on a video and I was like, wow, Saquon got mossed in that. And people are like, dude, that's not Saquon. What are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, I know that. It's like a joke. So it is exactly what you said. People want to see the name on the back so that they know exactly who is who.
Well, think about the subconscious effect of having of knowing who a player is or what a player is doing. Let's say, for example, the Giants see Sterling Shepard, and he has a totally different number, and Austin Mack is wearing a totally different number, If you see Sterling Shepard, Joe Judge identifies Sterling Shepard, he's like, oh, I don't need to help him with anything. I know he's a good receiver. But if he doesn't have his name on there and he can't tell who that is, I mean, they know who everybody is. But let's say like they're watching a play and they see something wrong, they're more willing to go and actually help them. And just the subconscious effect of like not knowing, who everybody might be at a single time because, you know who the player is because their jersey's on. You're actually out there trying to help each individual player and not favoring other people. You know what I mean? So it really takes the entire like favorability and gives everyone more of like an even playing field.
Exactly.
Because Joe Judge said, I want everyone to earn their position on this team. There is nobody that has a cemented position yet. And taking all of their names away puts everybody on the same playing field. So I really like that concept, love that mentality. But diving back into just some stuff that we saw in day 2 of padded practice, Andrew Thomas got beat up a little bit. By Lorenzo Carter. So he was actually put on his butt on a bull rush. So kind of, a little problematic stuff there. But ultimately, Andrew Thomas, it's going to take some time, for him to develop into an NFL style role at left tackle, especially. He was beat up by Dexter Lawrence, beat up by Leonard Williams, beat up by Lorenzo Carter. But he had a really nice rep against Ocean Ximenez that I posted on Twitter. If you haven't seen that already, he mirrored the crap out of Ximenez, really sealed the edge. It looked really good, but I just think he lacks that like just experience against really physical, really talented people. Like Lorenzo Carter isn't the best pass rusher in the world, but his experience in the NFL against better quality players, shone through at that moment. And it actually is a little concerning to me to a degree because without all of that time for Andrew Thomas to actually get more used to the NFL during preseason games and more training camp, it kind of feels rushed. You know what I mean?
It does, and we could see some struggles early on, but the thing is, there's like a couple clips and a couple things about him getting bulldozed by Lorenzo Carter or whatever, right? And people are really clinging to that, but if you actually read Jordan Rannon, he said that he held his own yesterday. He had like a couple of bad snaps, which should be expected of any rookie, but he also had a lot of really good snaps where he was really impressive. And as long as he's, learning and all of that, that's what we want to see. He's a rookie. He doesn't have NFL experience, so we expect him to struggle here and there. But we also want to see him have some good plays and mix in good with bad and just grow and get better day by day. And I think that's what we're seeing so far with him, with Matt Parrott, and really everyone else, all the other rookies. And another guy I want to bring up real quick is C.J. Board, that wide receiver. Super interesting. I never heard of him, never knew he was on the team, but day 1 of padded practice made 2 incredible touchdown catches and kind of opened my eyes to him. So now I'm going to be keeping a closer eye on CJ Board for the rest of the training camp.
Absolutely. I mean, he looked legit. CJ Board just signed with the Giants a few days ago and already making an impact. You really like to see that. At the end of the day, though, there's a lot of competition. Austin Mack, Benjamin Victor, Derek Dillon, Corey Coleman. It's going to be really hard for a guy like Board to make the team, but that's where that open gunner spot might come in handy for him. Just finding a way to maximize his talent, stick on the NFL roster. You can't pick and choose when you're at that level, and you're kind of fighting for a position that's not there. You got to just try to adapt your game and learn different roles. So we're going to see, things kind of progress in the coming weeks. Football's less than a month away, so it's really going to be difficult for these players to get into playing form. But a guy like Andrew Thomas, I'm okay with him struggling a little bit. Like, I'll ask you this question. What was the majority of things that we heard about Eric Flowers when he was in his first season or even his second or third season? It was always he got burned around the edge. He got destroyed. He got
Jason
annihilated.
Pierre-Paul.
Yeah,
you remember
Jason
that video?
Pierre-Paul. Yeah, oh my God. Like, literally tossed him aside. Like, what we saw from Andrew Thomas was a massive upgrade from what we saw from Eric Flowers, and it's only been like 2 practices.
True.
So that should give you an example of like we're starting off with a guy that is better than Eric Flowers by head and shoulders, and his potential is so much higher. Even than Nate Solder probably. His potential is higher than Nate Solder's, and that's what we really need. So bear with him. As a rookie, there's going to be trials and tribulations. There's going to be some struggles and things he has to work through. But that's part of the growth, and that's part of what makes great players great players.
Yeah, and another thing, though, with Andrew Thomas is even at the beginning of the season, if he struggles, I hope that fans are a little patient with him and they understand that there's no preseason. It's been a hectic offseason. And his first 4 weeks of the season, he has some insane matchups. Like, he's going up against TJ Watt week 1, he's one of the best edge rushers in the league. And then week 2, they're against Chicago, so he's going to have snaps against Khalil Mack. And then week 3, who is it in week 3 that we're playing?
Rams,
so he'll have some snaps where he has to go up against Aaron Donald. And then week 4, he's going up against Nick Bosa in the San Francisco 49ers. So first month of the season, it could be rough for Andrew Thomas. But as long as he shows development, he shows flashes, he holds his own here and there, I'm happy with it. I expect there to be some struggles. I know he didn't give up more than 2 pressures in a game for 3 years or something in Georgia.
College.
Yeah, it's college. He's about to get woken up. He's going to give up some pressures in those first 4 games. If he doesn't, I'm ready to get his jersey and frame it on my wall. But I'm expecting he's going to give up some sacks and some pressures. He's going to struggle here and there. But it's the long game. We didn't draft him just to be good right away for those first 4 games and play this year. It's about the next 10 years, really. That was what we had in mind when we took an offensive tackle at number 4. So there's going to be struggles early on. I just hope Giants fans are patient with him and they don't get upset if there are struggles in those first 4 weeks. I'm sure by the end of the year he'll have it figured out, especially with Mark Colombo and this coaching staff. Mark Colombo, everything we've heard about what he's been doing with the Giants this offseason has been just incredible. I know Zeitler was head over heels for him in an interview the other day. Will Hernandez was as well. Rave reviews from all of the offensive linemen about Mark Colombo. I expected nothing less, so really excited about him.
Yeah, and Zeitler even said about Andrew Thomas, he has that natural ability. That's what you want. You can build off of natural ability. And I'm excited about that. And just back to the schedule, it was actually switched. So it goes Steelers, Bears, 49ers, Rams.
Right. Okay.
So even so, let's be serious here. He has 6, 7, even 8, 9. Oh, my God. This is going to be bad. So he has TJ Watt. Then he has Khalil Mack. Then he has Nick Bosa. And then the Rams, who do they have?
Well, they do have Aaron Donald, who plays on the inside, but he definitely has some snaps where he lines up at 5 tech, so he'll have to block him at some point.
Okay, so we'll say Aaron Donald will be a hell of a freaking test for him. Yep. And then he has DeMarcus, what's his name?
Marcus Lawrence, yep.
Yeah, DeMarcus for the Cowboys.
And Robert
Alden
Quinn.
Smith.
They have Robert Quinn too, or do
Alden
they not
Smith.
have him anymore? Oh, Alden Smith, yeah. And then Washington, I can't wait to see him. I can't wait to see him go up against Chase Young.
And then you have the Eagles. And the Eagles always have a good pass rush. And then you have the Buccaneers. And who do the Buccaneers have? What's his name? He had
Shaquille Barrett.
He had 20 sacks last year.
19, yep.
Yeah, so Shaquille Barrett. And then back to Chase Young with Washington. And then the Eagles again. And then they get a short break with the Bengals. Then the Seahawks. Short break with the Cardinals.
Seahawks might have Clowney again at that point. We don't know. So if he's got to go up against Clowney, he's really not getting many breaks.
It's true. And then you have
Cardinals,
the Cardinals.
Chandler Jones.
Yep. Chandler Jones is a bad man. And then you have the Browns, who have
Myles Garrett.
And then you have the Ravens. And then the Cowboys again. Andrew Thomas is going to have one hell of a season.
He's got his work cut out for him.
But I love that.
I do too.
I love these competitive games for him because it's going to make him grow. It's going to force growth on him. It's a lot easier when you're handling, crappy pass rushers against the Miami Dolphins and then the Bengals and then this and then that. I want him to be playing the best in the league because when he faces off against, guys from the Bengals and guys from the Dolphins and guys from weaker teams, it's going to be that much easier. He's going to dominate those guys. That's how I feel about it.
I mean, exactly. I want him to get thrown into the fire. I want him to have these tough matchups as soon as possible. It's the best way for him to learn. It's the best teaching experience to go up against all the All-Pros and Pro Bowl players that we mentioned. Going up against all of them, that's just going to benefit him in the long run. And if he does manage to hold his own against a player like Shaquille Barrett or Chase Young or Myles Garrett, even, if he is able to hold his own in a few of those games, he could start to gain more confidence and just get even better and better. And like I said, he's thrown into the fire. It's going to be tough. There's going to be some struggles, but I'm excited to see how he handles these challenges, and I'm pretty confident he's going to handle them well.
Yeah, me too. There's a lot to be excited about with the Giants right now. Just today, Lorenzo Carter, was kind of breaking down a lot of what is going on behind the scenes. I'll kind of read you some stuff that he said to the media earlier this morning. So he was talking about that isolation drill. He said it's good. It just feels good to get back to playing football. Some guys were getting antsy. The team is trying to embrace the culture and be physical like the coaches asked them to. He said the defense is a little bit different, playing with more patience, doing your job and being fundamentally sound, which we talked about before, putting your eyes in the right place and trusting the rest. So it really boils down to proper positioning, fundamentals, always having your eyes on the ball carrier. On his growth, he said he has a lot of tools in his toolbox. He's working on angles, been a lot of working hands and refining skills to take some things from different players. But he did say it wasn't like a complete overhaul. He kind of just added to his abilities. What else is going on? So then we have Golden Tate, who also kind of talked about what's going on. He said he's the veteran, so it's his job to keep the team close, help guys develop, and echo what the coaches and general manager want to put out there. Says the coaches are extremely detailed. Mentions he knows exactly what Coach Jason Garrett expects. He says the offense is going to be very, very articulate, very detailed. And he also said, which I liked about Daniel Jones, he said the guy is ripped. He's solid. I love to see that. He's put on some muscle. And he sees that Jones sees the game more, shows up every day trying to get better. He's always impressed me. He's hungry to be great. And that he doesn't focus on personal statistics. He just wants to win. And that's really what makes a good player a great player. You don't care about your stats. I feel like OBJ was always like, I want to get another touchdown. Like, feed me the ball. Like, give me as many targets as you can. Jones is like, I just want to win. And Saquon Barkley is the same way. He's like, if we're winning, don't give me the ball as much. I don't care. But as long as we're winning, that's all that matters.
Yeah, I love that. And it's true. I do remember specifically going into one season, Odell Beckham Jr., they asked him, what's your goal for the season? He said, I want to get 20 touchdowns. It was like, okay, so you don't want to win a Super Bowl? Exactly. Saquon Barkley, they asked him like a similar question. He says, hey, I don't care how many times I get the ball as long as we're winning. It just shows the difference in character and quality of, having a leader on the team. It's a big difference, and it's a big deal. And, it's exciting. I think the Giants they've revamped this locker room, and I think it's really going to pay off. I think we've got a lot of solid leaders in here. But I also want to mention one other player who had some quotes the other day. Dexter Lawrence, big sexy Dexy. Big sexy the refrigerator Dexy, or whatever we came up with that one week. Dexter Lawrence, he said that he lost a good bit of weight this offseason. He said, quote, I got a personal trainer. We focus on eating, portion control. I got a chef. I didn't really like my build last year when he was listed at 342 pounds. So this year I tried to focus on losing a little bit of weight just so I can be better on the field. I'm out there running a lot better than I did last year. That's just the goal for me each year, feel better and be better. And I know he had another quote he mentioned where he said, like last year towards the fourth quarter of games, he was like kind of slowing down, but now he's thinking because he's lighter on his feet and everything, he won't have that problem anymore. And that's pretty exciting for me. Because Dexter Lawrence is a player that I'm a huge fan of. I think he's really great. He's a dominant run defender, and I think that he really has potential to be a really solid pass rusher too, because I think he's quite nimble for a guy's size.
Definitely.
But hearing that he's even shed down his size just a little bit, got a little quicker, got a little bit better stamina, I think he's definitely going to improve even further this year, and he was already a phenomenal player as a rookie.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of crazy when you think about a guy like Aaron Donald. He's 284 pounds, which is a big dude. But he's like pure
he doesn't have like
muscle.
any fat. Yeah,
dude,
he doesn't have like
huge,
any fat.
Like monster biceps. Like his chest is like a balloon. Like
yeah.
I just don't understand how you could be so big and so muscular. And play at a level that he does. It's just incredible. Like
he's terrifying.
Like Aaron, if you're a Yankees fan, Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton get injured just running the bases, and meanwhile Aaron Donald is 284 pounds, and he's 6'1" and just an absolute behemoth of a human being. So it's crazy. Dexter Lawrence is a little bit more chunky on him, but he can move guys. That's really what he's good at. He can move guys in the run game. He can move guys in the pass game. Close the pressure on opposing quarterbacks and just kind of put that pressure on the pocket. So I'm really excited to see what he has to offer. But I think that pretty much wraps up our evaluation of day 2 for padded practices. Today is day 3. A lot more to talk about. We're going to get you guys as much information as we can. Articles, podcasts, clips, everything in between.
Sure.
So thank you for sticking with us. And Anthony, I'll give you the last laugh.
Ooh, the last laugh. You know what that reminds me of is the Joker, and because he's on my wallpaper right here. So the Joker. I'm a big Batman fan. Excited for the new video game. If anybody else is excited, comment down below on YouTube. So thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Fireside Giants, and stay tuned for Film Breakdown coming out this week, and stay tuned to Empire Sports Media for all your articles and Giants news, and even all New York sports news and your needs. And we got it filled for you. All right. So stay tuned, and we'll see you in the next one.
TVSO.